Alright, Shalom, Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Bakathum to the brothers. Shalom, Yahweh Shema, Alathun Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai to the sisters. We're the Israelite School, Universal Practical Knowledge, started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Command of General Yana. We are not affiliated with any other Israelite group, nor any other Christian organization. Alright, so tonight's class, show you everything up there. Tonight's class, alright, we're going to recap on the present tense. It's like in the future tense. So tonight's going to be a recap on the future tense. Alright? And so it's very important to understand. So it's very, very important to understand. Alright? So the present tense. We went over the past tense. It's like it. We went over the present tense. We went over the past tense. So now we're going to recap on the future tense because we did go over the future tense. Alright? Remember, we want to remember this. When it comes to the future tense, all right. When it comes to all the tenses, everything is based off of your subject pronoun. All right. We want to remember everything is based off of your subject pronoun. So no matter what you do, when it comes to the past tense, the present tense, or the future tense, everything is always based off of your subject pronoun. All right. Now this is just a few. Now if you guys have this in your notes, that's good. And the reason why we always do recaps on these tenses because the Lord says rehearse the righteous acts. All right. You just don't want to do something once. Now, of course, once you guys get this all to your notes, there's of course you guys can study on your own time, and then you guys can practice on your own time. That's perfectly fine. But in class too, we try our best to repeat certain subjects so we can first we like and try our best to repeat certain subjects, right? Because this is something that the Lord wants us to know and understand thoroughly. All right? He wants us to understand thoroughly how to speak the Lashawan Qadash, how to speak the Hebrew language. Why? Because this is part of our culture. This is part of our heritage. This is part of our traditions that the Lord passed down to us. Alright? This is literally what makes us us. This is one of the things that makes us us. That's what makes us Israelites. Is the language that we speak. Specifically, that language is Hebrew. Alright? The language is Hebrew. The Lashawan Qadash. Alright? So now, alright, so remember, it's just a recap. Now, if you guys also have any questions too as well, you can put it into the live chat. And that's not an issue at all. Make sure you put it into the live chat. Alright, don't forget to put your questions in the live chat. Nothing wrong with that. If you guys want to know what a word is or what something means or etc., don't forget to put it into the live chat. Ask your questions as well when it comes to knowing the Hebrew or what you want to know in the Hebrew. You want to make, there's nothing wrong with asking the question, right? Alright. So like we're having technical difficulties at first as well, trying to get this up. Okay, so now we want to keep. Let me see. Turn this on. So what we want to do as well. All right, everything is based off of. All right, everything is based off of your subject pronoun. So when we're teaching about, so when we're learning about the present tense, and when we're learning about the past tense, and when we're learning about the future tense, we want to. These tenses deal with conjugations. All right. When it comes each verb in the present, the past, or the future deals with conjugations. Okay, in the Hebrew, we have something called conjugations. We have verb conjugations. In most languages, you have conjugations based off of the certain tense that you're speaking in. In the present tense, it has a conjugation, a certain conjugation. In the the past tense, it has a certain conjugation based off of the subject pronoun being used. In the future tense, it has certain conjugations based off of the subject pronoun being used. When dealing with the Hebrew and dealing with conjugations in the Hebrew, dealing with the past, the present, the future tenses, everything is based off of your subject pronoun. So if you want to learn how to, if you want to know how to conjugate the verb being used in a sentence that you want to use, you have to study the different subject pronouns, all right, and the conjugations specific to that subject pronoun. You always conjugate your verb based off of the subject pronoun, all right? So you base the verb off of you always conjugate your verb based off of your subject pronoun. Now, in the recap, all right, I've been using the same verb, nathan, meaning to give. All right, so nathan means to give. So this is nathan. This is your na, your tha, and your na in the paleo or in the ancient script. This is your na, your tha, and your na. All right, in the Assyrian script or the square script or the modern script, you may have heard these terms before. So this is your na, your tha, and then your na. Your na, your tha, and your na. You put it together, it's pronounced nathan. All right, nathan, meaning to give. Nathan, to give. Nathan, meaning to give. So nathan means to give. Nathan means to give. So nathan is the verb that we're going to be using in tonight's class. I've been using it for the past tense. I believe I've been using it for the present tense as well. But for sure, in the recap, I have been using this verb in the future tense. So now we want to. So nathan. All right. So nathan meaning to give. Remember, this is the verb that we're going to be conjugating today for this recap. All right. This is the verb that we're going to be using to conjugate in this recap. All right. So we want to try to do our best to remember these conjugations. If you have any questions too as well, Brother Quashar, type your questions into the live chat and that would be great. Now remember, everything is based off of your subject pronoun. So, our first subject pronoun we're going to be using is I or I am. All right. Okay, so the first subject pronoun we're going to be using is I am, which is anya in the Hebrew, which is anya in the Lashawan Qadash. So this is the recap that we're going to be talking about too. Okay, so remember, this is your subject pronoun. All your conjugations is based off of your subject pronoun. You're not going to be able to know how to conjugate the verb or to conjugate the verb being used. Specifically, nathan is what's being used in tonight's class, in tonight's recap for the future tense. Alright? So, anya meaning I or I am. So, anya meaning I or I am. This is your anya in the Paleo. This is anya spelled in the Assyrian script. This is anya written in the English. It's pronounced anya, 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 anya. Okay, anya. All right, anya. Okay, anya, which means I or I am. So this is written in the English. This is how you would pronounce this. It's pronounced anya, meaning I or I am. So if you wanted to say I or I am, or I am doing something, or I did something, or I will do something, you would use the subject pronoun anya. Do not forget, everything is based off of your subject pronoun. Okay? Remember, when it comes to conjugating verbs, everything is based off of your subject pronoun. You don't want to forget that. You want to commit that to memory for this recap. All right? This is just the future tense recap. We'll do a present tense and a past tense recap as well, and then we'll move on to other things. All right? We'll move on to other things. Okay? So let's go ahead and get it. All right? So we're going to conjugate this verb. Okay. All right. So I want to make sure everybody pays attention. All right. So what we have on the board, right? What we have on the board is the conjugation for the subject pronoun I or I am in the future tense. So what we have on the board right now, the conjugation for the subject pronoun I and I or I am in the future tense. Remember, your conjugation is always based off of your subject pronoun. So this right here, we can't get any of this until we have this. All right? You cannot get your solution. All right? You cannot get your answer unless you have this first. All right? Put it in those terminology. We can put it into that type of terminology. So your subject pronoun is how you conjugate the verbs in the Hebrew, no matter the tense. It could be your past, it could be your future, it could be your present. Right now, or in the future now. We have to keep in mind too, the original form of the verb is nathan. So to our left, or possibly to your right, if I'm not mistaken, it's either to your right, but the way I'm facing is to my left, or to our left, or to our right, whatever the case may be, depending on how you're looking, all right? This right here on the board, this is the original form, all right? This right here is the original form of the verb nathan. So the original form of nathan looks like this: a na, a tha, and a na. That's the original form of nathan: a na, and a tha, and a na. Okay, so that's the original form of Nathan. So let's keep that. So let's remember that. That's the original form. All right, that's the original form of Nathan. So now, so that's the original form of Nathan. Now, if you pay close attention, the conjugation has an extra letter here. The extra letter that you see is ah. That's the change within the original. The original word is Nathan. The change is the ah that's in front of the na. So an ah goes in front of the na in Nathan. Right? So to conjugate the verb Nathan based off of the subject pronoun I or I am, you add a ah in front of Nathan. So you see Nathan right here. You add a ah. This is your I in your Pelio. Here's your I in your Siri. You add an I in front of the verb Nathan. Okay, you add an I. I wrote it in the English down at the bottom too. So this is your I. You see, right? I Nathan. I Nathan. So if you want to say I will give, you say I Nathan. I will give. Anya I Nathan. Alright? Anya I Nathan. So Anya I Nathan. Anya I Nathan is how you would say I will give. Alright, Anathan. So Anya Anathan. Anya Anathan. Alright, remember everything is based off of your conjugations. I mean, so like your conjugations is based off of your subject pronoun. If you don't have your subject pronoun, you won't be able to get any of this. Anathan. The original word. The original verb being used here is Nathan. Alright, the original verb being used is Nathan. To make it future tense, Anathan. Alright. Anya Anathan. Meaning I will give. Alright. Let's get it. Alright. We'll get the next one. Alright. So the next subject pronoun we have is ata. Alright? The next subject pronoun we have is ata. Alright? Ata meaning you. Now specifically, this is going to be used in the masculine tense or the position of authority tense. Because there is a ata in the feminine tense, and you would conjugate the verb a certain way due to that it's in the feminine tense or the subservient tense. Alright? So specifically we're focusing on ata. The subject pronoun is ata, and will be okay, so the subject pronoun is ata, and we want to focus that this is for the masculine tense or the position of authority tense. So this is how you would conjugate ata in the position of authority tense and the masculine tense in the future tense. Alright? So now ata is the subject pronoun for you. So ata is the subject pronoun in Hebrew for you. So this is ata. This is your a, your ta, and your ha in the paleo. This is your a, your ta, and your ha in the Assyrian. I have the words right here. I have the letters a, ta, and ha. You put that together, you connect them together, and you get ata. Alright, you get ata. 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 I wrote it in the English on how it would be pronounced and written in the English. Ata. Ata. So ata meaning you. Ata means you. Okay, so ata is the subject pronoun for you. Ata is the subject pronoun for you. Ata meaning you. Position of authority tense in the masculine tense. So remember, we're conjugating this verb nathan in the masculine or the position of authority tense for the future tense. Now remember, all your verb conjugations is based off of your subject pronoun. All of your verb conjugations in the Hebrew is based off of your subject pronoun. So we want to remember that. Alright? Everything is based off your verb conjugations is based off of your subject pronoun. Okay? Alright, let's get it. Alright, so now, remember, we got a zakar, right? Zakar meaning to remember. The zakar means remember. So we have to zakar that when it comes to verb conjugations, everything is based off your subject pronoun. Now, zakar meaning remember. Zakar meaning remember. So zakar, this is the original verb. Alright, zakar, this right here. This is the original form of the verb. Is nathan. Zakar, the original form of the verb. Because you want to notice. You want to notice the change being done when it comes to conjugating your verbs. When it comes to conjugating the verbs in the Hebrew. Alright? Soldier. You'll be alright. Alright, warrior? Alright. So now here we go. We want to remember that. Alright? Do not forget it. Remember that. The zakar that. You want to zakar the original form of the verb that's being conjugated so you can notice the change. Now, where's the change? Right? This is the conjugated version. Right here. Here's the conjugation. Where's the change? Well, the change is right here. The tha. There's a tha. There's a tha that's put in front of the verb, right? There's a tha put in front of the verb. So this is your tha, your na, your tha, your na. In the paleo. This is your tha, your na, your tha, and your na. In the Assyrian script. So, I have it written in the English at the bottom. Tha, nathun. 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 So when it comes to conjugating the verb, right? To conjugate the verb nathun in the future tense based off the subject pronoun you in the masculine or the position of authority tense is tha nathun. So you would say ata tha nathun, or you can just say tha nathun. So ata tha nathun. Ata na like it. Ata tha nathun. Ata tha nathun. Ata tha nathun. Alright? Ata tha nathun. Ata tha nathun. Okay? Here we go. So now remember, that's how you conjugate it. Remember, all of your conjugations is based off of your subject pronoun. Go ahead, princess. La. Now. Okay, so now this is what we'll do. Alright? So what we're going to get next is the same thing. So we're still going to get a tha. This time we're going to do it in the subservient tense or the feminine tense. Alright? So now, pay close attention. So this is still, so the subject pronoun is still a tha. Alright, so the subject pronoun is still a tha. So the subject pronoun being used is still a tha. Alright, so the subject pronoun being used is still a tha. Now, for future tense. Alright, but, okay, so like in the future. So in the future tense, it's still a tha. But the difference here is that this tha will be conjugated based off of the subservient tense or the feminine tense. Alright? So your verb, okay, in this case, your verb is going to be conjugated or changed based off of your subservient tense and your feminine tense. Now the subject pronoun is still a tha, meaning you. That's your subject pronoun. All your conjugations are based off of your subject pronoun. Alright? All of your verb conjugations is based off of your subject pronoun. Remember that. Without your subject pronoun, you're not going to be able to conjugate any of your verbs. You have to know the subject pronoun. Specifically in this case, it's in the subservient tense and the feminine tense. We just did the masculine tense, the position of authority tense or the masculine tense. So your main focus here is, even though it's the same subject pronoun being used, which is ata, meaning you, but you also want to focus on the subservient and the feminine tense because the conjugation is slightly different. Now remember, zakar, meaning remember. Zakar, this right here. You want to know the original form. Alright? You want the original form. You want to pay attention to the original form. And the reason why you want to pay attention and remember zakar, the original form, because you want to notice the change. You want the original word, the original verb being used is nathan. Na, tha, and a na. Na, tha, and a na. Nathan. So we have to remember the original form so we can notice the change. So we can notice the conjugation. Now here we go. Alright. Now, of course, I have it written in the English here, but I have it written in the Hebrew up here. Where's the change? Where's the change? Well, there's a tha in the beginning, and then there's the ya. There's a ya at the end. Now remember, this is the original verb. This is the original word. Right here. That's your original word. That's the original verb, nathan. It's right there. There's your original word. Okay? The difference is your tha is in the front and then your ya is in the back. Right? So this is how you would conjugate the word nathan based off of your subject pronoun you in the subservient and feminine tense in the future tense. Alright? And it will be pronounced as tha nathanya. So tha nathanya. Tha nathanya. Tha nathanya. Alright? So this is in the feminine in the subservient tense. So if you were saying you will, right? You will give, right? And you're referencing a sister, right? You would use this, all right? Because you're saying you, meaning someone else. So usually you're using you in reference of something, in reference of a woman or in reference of a man, whatever the case may be. Specifically in this case, it's in the subservient tense or the feminine tense. Because it's in the feminine tense, the example is in the feminine tense, we're referring to a sister or a woman. So if I say, you will give this to somebody, or you will give this, or you will give that, or whatever the case may be, and I'm referencing a woman, I would have to use this conjugation. Tha nathanya. Tha nathanya. Tha nathanya. Okay? Tha nathanya. Tha nathanya. That's how you would conjugate the verb. Now, is it possible that you can see this? Will you see this in the Bible when reading it? Absolutely. You will see things like this in the Bible. Now, it gets a little tricky, okay, because of the certain verb that I used. Because of the certain verb, the specific verb that I used, it can get a little tricky. It won't say nathan, it will say natha. It will just be I don't know, Salaki, I do know why, but I'm not going to explain it in this class because it's a little bit off subject, and I don't want to confuse anybody. Okay, but it would be nathaf, so you would most likely see tha nathafia. All right, so if you see a tha and a na and two thas and then a ya, that's still nathan. It's just pronounced nathafia based off of such and such, such and such. Okay, all right. So now, tha nathanya. Now the reason why I brought that up, because if you use any other verb, you will see this conjugation. But sometimes you may not see this conjugation in reference into a sister. you may see this reference into the nation of Israel. All right? And you're probably wondering why are the Israelites or the nation of Israel, and why are these words in the feminine tense if it's being spoken to everyone? Okay? I want to break this down just a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna break it down. I'm gonna make it very simple. Okay? The Bible, biblical language, okay, biblical language is slightly different from just regular speaking the Hebrew. Okay, I just want you guys to understand that. Biblical Hebrew is slightly different from just regularly speaking the Hebrew. And here's why. Because those are the words of the Lord. Okay? So in the Bible, these words are coming from the Lord through the mouth of the prophets. Okay? And these words are targeted to the nation of Israel. And the nation of Israel is subservient to the Most High because we are in the position of serving. So we're serving the Lord. So it's going to be put in the subservient tense at times. Now, the subservient tense is the same as the feminine tense because the woman and the women of Israel were always in a position of serving whoever's in charge of them. It could be their husband, it could be a priest, it could be any male figure in a position of authority. Women were always in a position of serving as well, especially when it comes to their husbands. So if you're wondering why the subservient tense and the feminine tense are together, it's because of that case. Okay? Hopefully everybody understands that. So if you guys are wondering in the Bible, if you're ever reading the Hebrew, why is it being spoken in the feminine tense? We say subservient tense for a reason, because subservient tense just means, subservient itself just means you're in a position of serving. Okay? And feminine, meaning in the woman's tense, I guess you could say, because women are also known to serve. Okay? So sometimes when you're reading the Hebrew, all right, a lot of those conjugations and some of those sentences are in the subservient tense or the feminine tense, and that is why. Because it's being targeted to the nation of Israel, and the nation of Israel is always in a subservient, all right, position because we serve the Lord. And these words are being said and coming from the Lord. All right? So hopefully everybody understands that, whatever the case may be. Okay? So I wanted to point that out too, because I believe someone did have a question on that. All right? Someone did have a question on that, and I wanted to answer that. All right? So Nathaniel. All right? Okay. All right. Let's get the next one. So now we're going to get the next subject pronoun being used. So the next subject pronoun going to be used is going to be he, which is hawa'a. All right? It's going to be hawa'a. Real quick. All right. I'll push that later. That's a little big there. So the next subject pronoun we have, on the board is he, which is hawa'a. Now remember, when it comes to your verb conjugations, all right, everything is based off of your subject pronoun, all right? It's almost like Spanish. It's almost like most languages. In most languages, you cannot conjugate the verb unless you know the subject pronoun. Because when it comes to your present, your future, your past, whichever tense that you may be in, everything is based off of your subject pronoun. Now, every subject pronoun has a different conjugation. There's different changes. So first things first, remember, everything is based off of your subject pronoun. Now, we also want to keep in mind, we want to constantly remember the original form of the verb. Once you lose the original form of the verb, all right, you're not going to notice the change, and then you may not remember the actual change. And because you're not going to remember, you may not remember the actual change, then you're not going to be able to remember how to conjugate it. All right, you're not going to remember how to conjugate it. All right. And also, remembering the original form of the verb will help you diagnose, all right, the verb or the word being used. So that's why, like I always say in class, I say this all the time, try to remember as many verbs as possible, all right? I've gotten that idea, all right? The reason why I got that idea from is because I was, way back when I actually cared and tried to study Spanish, I was taught that you want to learn as many verbs as possible because that's the main thing when it comes to sentence structure. And it's true. There are certain things that you need in order to structure a sentence. All right? There's certain things that you're going to need. And one of them is a verb. No matter what sentence you use, you're not going to not have a verb in that sentence. It sounds crazy, but it's not as crazy as it seems. All right? It's not as crazy as it seems. Alright, so let's get it. So now, hawa'a is how you say he. So this Hawa'ah, this is your Ha, your Wa, and your Ah in the Paleo. This is your Ha, your Wa, and your Ah in the Assyrian. You put that together, it's Hawa'ah. Hawa'ah, which is he. So Hawa'ah is the subject pronoun, all right, for he in the Hebrew. Hawa'ah. All right, Hawa'ah. All right, Hawa'ah. Now this conjugation, all right, Hawa'ah. 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 So now let's get it. Okay. Remember, everything is based off of your subject pronoun. Alright, everything is based off of your subject pronoun. You do not want to forget that rule. Everything is based off of your subject pronoun. Alright, everything is based off of your subject pronoun. You cannot conjugate any verbs, no matter what tense you are in. You can be in the present, you can be in the past, you can be in the future, which we are in right now. You have to use the subject pronoun. Right? So Hawa'ah is the subject pronoun. Remember the original form of the verb. Remember the original form of the verb. The original form of the verb is Nathan. Where's the difference? Well, you guessed it, right? The difference is right here. It's your ya. You put a ya in front of the verb Nathan to conjugate it based off of your subject pronoun he, which is Hawa'ah in the future tense. So Hawa'ah, Hawa'ah, Yanathan. Hawa'ah, Yanathan. So if you see Yanathan, he will give. Yanathan. So if you're reading the Hebrew, alright, when you're reading the Hebrew and you're reading in the Bible, right, in some cases, if you see a ya in front of a verb, it's saying he will give. Alright, he will give. Alright, so he will give. Yanathan. So Hawa'ah, Yanathan. Hawa'ah, Yanathan. So Hawa'ah, Yanathan. Yanathan. Come, person.
Like your surprise.
Daddy's in class, okay? Put that back on the table, okay? The water. So Hawa'ah, Yanathan. Hawa'ah, Yanathan is how you would conjugate the verb Nathan based off the subject pronoun he, which is Hawa'ah in the Hebrew. This is specifically in the future tense. Alright? This is for a future tense. So Hawa'ah, Yanathan. Hawa'ah, Yanathan. So Hawa'ah, Yanathan. Alright? Hawa'ah, Yanathan meaning he will give. So Hawa'ah, Yanathan. Hawa'ah, Yanathan. All right. All right, we're going to get the next conjugation. We'll get the next conjugation. Alright, we'll get the next conjugation. 1 second. I want to see if I can pull something up for y'all. Alright, so let me see if I can get this for y'all. I want to put it up on the big screen. Let's see if this is the right one. Alright, let me see if I can get this pulled up. So like, I want to make sure I got the right one.
I think the door. The door is open. The door open.
Alright, let's see.
No?
So let me see if I can okay, I think y'all can see what I'm looking at now. So real quick, let's see. Okay, so if you guys are seeing right here, you have the verb right here, which is rabah. Alright?
Okay.
You have the verb right here, which is rabah. You have rabah. Look at the strong, right? This is the verb rabah. Alright, rabah, meaning be or become great, become many, be or become much, meaning to multiply. Right, meaning to multiply. Right, so we go back. It says, and ha rabah rabaya ya. All right, rabaya ya, rabaya ya. All right, so this is being put in the feminine tense. All right. And so I want you guys to understand, right, the reason why this is being used, because this is a conjugation, right? This is a conjugation for and I will make, right, to multiply. All right? So this is a conjugation on how you would conjugate in the future tense. So the reason why I brought this up is because biblical Hebrew can sometimes slightly be different than how we would be speaking the Hebrew and how we make our conjugations sometimes, in some cases. So I wanted to bring that out. Now I also wanted to show you real quick, like right here, another conjugation, right? Nathaf, alright? Nathafia. Right? This is still the verb nathan. Alright, this is still that's still the verb nathan. But you see how there's like two thas right there? A tha and a tha. See that? A tha and a tha. Wa nathafia. I just want to let you guys know that's an example. We can even try, let's see, real quick. Let's see, another good verse to use to show conjugations. Let's see. You guys can go. I believe we will get into here soon.
appeal. No, I am not appeal. No appeal. No appeal. No appeal.
All right, I want y'all to pay close attention to that right there. All right, I'm gonna bring this back up. All right, I'm gonna bring this back up in just a bit. And I want to show you guys something when we get there. So let's get the next conjugation on the board real quick. So I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna come back to that. Let's see. Okay, that works. Okay. So we're gonna get it. We're gonna get the next conjugation on the board. So, what we have on the board now, alright, so what we have on the board now is haya'ah. So remember, you can't do anything without your subject pronoun. Without your subject pronoun, you're not going to be able to conjugate any of these words. You're not going to be able to conjugate any of these verbs. Now, I just got finished showing you that sometimes biblical Hebrew has a different length, almost a different, has like a different twist on it sometimes. So biblical Hebrew is slightly different from how you speak regular Hebrew. Okay, what we're teaching you guys on is just how to speak Hebrew regularly. Now, can you find these things in the Bible? Yes, you can. But sometimes biblical lingo is a little different than how you would speak on the normal basis. Because biblical Hebrew, these are words coming from the Lord. Alright? And then they have to be in a certain tense. Then there's different grammar involved and things like that. We are just teaching you how to speak regular Hebrew regularly with grammar as well. But biblical Hebrew can be slightly different than how you speak regularly. And I pointed that out, and that's why I went to the Blue Letter Bible and went to the interlinear. Now, we're going to come back to that because the next conjugation, I want to show you the similarities to it, and you can actually find these conjugations. Now, this subject pronoun we have on the board is haya'ah. Haya'ah is she in the Hebrew. Right? This is your ha, your ya, and your ah in the Paleo. This is your ha, your ya, and the ah in the Syrian. You put it together, written in the English right here, is haya'ah, 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 meaning she. Alright? Haya'ah is how you would say she. Now remember, all of your conjugations is based off of your subject pronoun. So all of your conjugations is based off of your subject pronoun. Now remember the original form of the verb. Remember the original form of your verb. Okay, if you do not remember the original form of your verb, you're not going to notice the change that's being done. You're not going to realize and notice the conjugation being done. Alright? Okay, so now here's the conjugation, all right, for haya'ah. It's similar to your conjugation. It has a similar conjugation, all right, for your masculine, for your masculine you, all right, or for your position of authority you. So it has the very same conjugation for it. So, but now you want to pay close attention to that, all right, because it depends on what's being said. You got to understand the context of the context plays a very key part in structuring sentences in the Hebrew. You have to have context, all right? There's a context to everything. This is the problem in the Christian church. Context means nothing in the Christian church. But within our culture, context is everything. Even within the language that we speak, context matters. Context matters a lot. So now, future tense, which is haya'ah, meaning she. Haya'ah meaning she. Alright? The way you conjugate it right here, where's the difference? The difference is there's a tha in front of the verb. So thanathan. Haya'ah thanathan. Haya'ah thanathan, meaning she will give. Thanathan. Alright? Haya'ah thanathan. Haya'ah thanathan, meaning she will give. Alright, thanathan. Alright, let's get the next conjugation. Remember, haya'ah thanathan, meaning she will give. Now remember, context is everything. Because this could be you give, you will give, right? In the masculine tense, because it has the very same conjugation. Alright, so happily, it has the same conjugation. Alright? But context will allow you to realize if it's you in the masculine or the position of authority tense, or it's she. Alright? Context will hear it tell you. In this case, instead of saying thanathan, I would say haya'ah thanathan to let you know that I'm saying she and not you in the masculine tense or the position of authority tense. Alright? Okay. So the next subject pronoun we have on the board is we. Alright? Now, you may be looking at this word and you're like, man, this word is really long in order for it just to mean we. Alright, I definitely understand. In English, we is just W-E. In Hebrew is anak now. I mean, we in English is W-E. In Spanish is nosotros. Alright, I mean, that's neither here or there. So, anak nawa. Anak nawa. Alright, this is your a, your na, your cha, your na, and then your wa. In the paleo, this is your a, your na, your cha, your na, and your wa. In the Assyrian, it's pronounced anak nawa. Anak nawa. Anak nawa, meaning we. So the subject pronoun for we in the Hebrew is anak nawa. Anak nawa. Anak nawa. Anak nawa. Remember, you cannot conjugate anything without knowing your subject pronoun. So your subject pronoun is anak nawa. Anak nawa. Now remember the original form of the verb. Remember the original form of the verb. Alright, remember the original form of the verb. Now remember, everything is based off of your subject pronoun. So anak nawa is we. Anak nawa is we. So your subject pronoun is we. The original verb is nathan. That's how you pronounce the original verb. Now where's the change? Where is the conjugation at? You're adding na in front of the verb. So it's na nathan. So it's now na nathan, meaning we will get. So anak nawa na nathan. Anak nawa na nathan. Alright? So anak nawa na nathan. So remember. Salaki. So now remember, everything is based off of your subject pronoun. So anak nawa is your subject pronoun. We is your subject pronoun. Anak nawa is we in the Hebrew. Now remember your original form of the verb. Remember your original form of the verb. Nathan is the original form of the verb. Now how would you conjugate it? Easy. You add a na in front of the nathan. You add a na in front of the nathan. Which is now it's pronounced as nanathan. Nanathan. So anak nawa nanathan. Anak nawa nanathan. Anak nawa nanathan. Meaning we will give. We will give. Now, I want to show y'all on Blue Letter Bible. Alright. So now, we're going to get Genesis chapter 19, verse 3. So it says, and he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house. And he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. Now, to give you the backdrop, this is about Sodom and Gomorrah. And the angels came to Lot, right? And so Lot took him into the house, kept them away from the men in the street, or did their best. He tried to keep the men of Sodom and Gomorrah that were homosexual away from the angels, away from the men of the Lord. All right. So now that's just the backdrop of Genesis 19:3. All right. So now in 3 it says, and they so like it. I want to say, is it 3? So like not 19:3, I want 19:2. But it says, did I get that right? Let's see. God. So like it. That is, even though that is pretty much the gist of everything. But let's go to verse 2. Salaki about that. So not verse 3, it's verse 2. So now it says, and he said, behold, now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house. So now this is Lot talking to the angels. And tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go on your ways. And they said, nay, but we will abide in the street all night. So the angel was like, nah, we're going to stay here all night. Okay, saying we, meaning there's more than one. So the angels would answer and responded to Lot, saying, hey, we will abide in the street all night. It says, but, meaning rather, we will abide in the street all night. Now the reason why I'm bringing this scripture up, because it says we will, right? We're learning about the future tense. So it says, but we will abide in the street all night. So the verb, now let's think about it in the English. We is the subject pronoun right here. This is your subject pronoun. We is the subject pronoun. Will abide. That's your future tense conjugation in the English. Will abide. That is your English conjugation in the future tense for abide. You just put a will in front of the word abide. Will abide is how you would conjugate the verb abide in the English. Okay? And that's how you future tense stuff in the English. But now, these words, these very same words, can be translated in the Lashawan Qadash. It can be translated within the Hebrew. So now, making sure everybody can see me. Right, yes, so you can see what I'm highlighting. So now, we will abide. So if I click here, now I'm in Blue Letter Bible. The Blue Letter Bible is very, very good to use. If I click on the Blue Letter Bible, and it says right here, interlinear. Alright? And it says in the Masoretic text. So in the Masoretic text, alright, if you don't know what the Masoretic text means, it just means in the text of, it means in Moses. These words are coming from Moses. Alright? So the Masoretic text. pretty much, for lack of better words, the Hebrew text. Now, if you highlight this, you see this right here? Alright. This is the street. So this right here, in the street. So, how do you say street? You say Rakab. Alright, Rakab. Rakab. Alright. Definition of that, of Rakab, meaning broad place, way, street. Alright, avenue, area. Rakab. Rakab. Alright. So we're matching up the sentences. Now here you go. Now you see this right here? Nalayan. So, you see this right here? You see this verb right here? It says na layan. Alright, so right here it's lawan. So the original verb is lawan. Right? Lawan is the original verb, meaning to lodge, to stop over, pass the night, abide. Right? That's the definition of the verb lawan, meaning to stay, to abide. Right? Lawan, lawan. So right here, when you click on it, it says na layan, na layan. Then this right here is the original verb. So the reason why I brought this out, because you see this? Layan, right? Right there, layan, right? Even though, okay, that ya, that wa became a ya, that's grammar, alright? That's grammar based off of that weird system that they do using the Nakud and all that nonsense or whatever. Alright? So that wa becomes a ya. So now you have na layan. Na layan. Now remember, this is a conjugation. This is a conjugation. For it says we will abide all night. So this is what that means. That na layan literally means we will abide all night. That looks very familiar, right? Because if I go back for y'all, let's go back to the board. If you guys look on the board, how do you conjugate the future tense based off the subject pronoun we? You add a na in front of the verb. You add a na in front of the word. So if we go back, alright, what do you see? You see a na, right, in front of the word. See this right here? You see a na. You see a na in front of the word layan or lawan. Layan. Na layan or lawan. Alright? Na layan. Na layan. Right? Na layan. That na is front of the layan or the lawan because it conjugated. This is an example of a conjugation, a verb conjugation in the Bible using we. Alright? The reason why that needs to be put out there so we understand that what we're doing here is not something just made up. The majority of these conjugations, all these conjugations are in the Bible. Now, biblical language is slightly different than how to regular speak Hebrew on the daily basis, but there are a lot of similarities, and you are going to be able to tell which one is which and what is what. So, nalayan, or nalawan. So, nalayan. That na is how you were able to conjugate. How that na is letting you know that is a conjugation based off of the verb anak nawa. Now, you don't see the actual subject pronoun there. Now there's a good reason why the subject pronoun is not in front of there, because it does not matter if the subject pronoun is there or not. You don't need the anaknawa there. Now, can you find anaknawa in the scriptures? Absolutely. But the anaknawa does not have to be there. All right? It's optional if you want the anaknawa to be there or not. All right? And the reason why is because sometimes it makes the sentence shorter. And sometimes it's just up to your choice if you want to use the anaknawa or not. Anaknawa meaning we. But if you conjugate the verb based off of the subject pronoun, the anaknawa is implied. Meaning because it's based, because remember, your conjugations is based off of what? Your conjugations are based off of your subject pronoun. So because your conjugations are based off of your subject pronoun, you do not always need the subject pronoun there. Now, there are cases where it would make it easier for you to know you would know what conjugation is being used with accordance of what subject pronoun being used. Now, for an example, in the future tense, you have two subject pronouns that are conjugated very, very similar. Your you masculine your you masculine or position of authority tense, and your she, right? And your she conjugation. So the conjugation for the you position of authority tense and masculine tense is very, very similar to your conjugation based off of the subject pronoun she. They're the same. You add a tha in front of the verb or in front of the word. So it's tha-nathan, right? In that context. Now, because those conjugations are the same, you may want to add the subject pronoun because we cannot leave it up for implication. And the reason why we can't leave it up for implication due to the fact that the conjugations are very similar. All right, they're very much alike. So you cannot leave it up for implication because you're just not going to know unless the context is very, very well stated within the structure of the sentence being structured in the Lashawan Qadash or the Hebrew language. So na nathan, right? Na nathan. Now here it says na layan or na lawan. All right, 1 second. That's a lot here. All right. So let's keep that in mind. All right. Keep that in mind. All right. Just keep that in mind. That's the conjugation. All right. That's how you would conjugate it. Alright. That's a good example in the Blue Letter Bible, in the interlinear version, of a good example of the conjugation, the we conjugation. Alright, in the future text. That was a good example. Alright. So with that, I say mining, which means to stand. We're going to give a courteous salute to the brothers, men of Israel. We're going to give a courteous salute to the brothers, men of Israel, Madam Shabbat, Aymani, Barak, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua Barakatham, Yad Matah, Sa'ala Akwafia, which means turn and face the sisters, men of Israel. We're going to give a courteous salute to the sisters, men of Israel, Madam Shabbat, Aymani, Barak, Yahweh Shamar Alathan Ba'ashim Yahushua, Yad Matah. With that, class dismissed.